You are listening to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 844-RADIO-US, 844-723-4687. President Trump in the news. The president, for now, is listening to advisors to tell him to keep his cool on trade spending in the Fed at least through November of 2020. President Trump has one main job between now and Election Day. Don't screw up the economy. He's increasingly listening to internal and external advisors telling him the best way to postpone an economic slowdown is to turn down the burners on trade wars, avoid any fiscal meltdowns, and lay off criticizing the Federal Reserve. That is a smart move. All of this could flip on a presidential whim, but at the moment, President Trump is poised to sign a spending increase that removes the risk of potentially disastrous debt default and avoid sucking federal dollars out of the economy. The problem with it is that as many federal dollars that can be sucked out of the economy should be indeed sucked out of the economy. The government is too big, it owes too much, and it spends way too much. The key right now is to avoid prosperity killers. He knows that, says National Economic Council Director Larry Kudlow. Economic growth is his trump card for re-election, if you'll pardon the phrase. Sorry, sir. I will not. President Donald Trump's attorneys asked a federal judge yesterday, to issue a temporary restraining order to prevent the House's top tax writer from asking New York officials to turn over the president's state tax returns. President Trump filed suit in the District of Columbia to keep House Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal, a Democrat from Massachusetts, from taking advantage of a New York law that would give him access to the state returns upon his request. New York officials are also named in the lawsuit, but President Trump's attorneys said they fear Neal could ask for the returns before the case proceeds. The president is in an intolerable situation if he seeks results to make that relief after the chairman requests his state returns. The returns might be disclosed before he can be heard in court, said the attorney arguing in a U.S. District Court filing. At the same time, immediate judicial review would force the court to prematurely decide the constitutional issues that might otherwise be avoided. It's another volley in the tug-of-war between President Donald Trump and Democrats who are bent on getting hold of his tax returns, which he has refused to release. Neal has asked a federal court to order the administration to give at least 6 years' worth of Trump returns under a federal law that allows the chairs of Congress's tax committees to obtain anyone's confidential tax information. It's a bad law. If indeed they pursue this bad law for the sake of politics, having to do with President Donald Trump's tax returns, then it will be taken away from them, because that's not the intended purpose of the law. That being said, I want to make this very clear. The President of the United States better have a very good reason for not releasing his tax returns. Right now, he has one. The IRS is auditing his tax returns. It would be just absolutely unbelievably dumb for him to release those tax returns before the IRS gives him a clean bill of health. But once that happens, release the returns, Mr. President. Let the politics go where they may. That's what you do. This is interesting. A recent study from the University of Pennsylvania finds that racism in America during President Donald Trump's presidency after his election in 2016 has significantly decreased. It directly contradicts the narrative being pushed among many academics and mainstream media personalities. The rise of Trump, the fall of prejudice, ? Tracking white Americans' racial attitudes, 2008 to 2018, via panel survey, was authored by UPenn political science professor Daniel Hopkins and research assistant Samantha Washington. Hopkins, in an article for 538, detailed on Tuesday the study, which used 13 waves of panel surveys to gather data and determined that white racial prejudice against African Americans and Hispanic Americans has declined since 2016, when President Trump was elected president. He also noted that the fall in prejudice was present for both Democrats and Republicans. Hopkins and Washington, according to the study, voiced their opinions on Trump and his statements as a political leader. Donald Trump has used racist rhetoric to build political support, the study states. In his campaign and first years in office, President Trump consistently defied conventional norms by using explicit, negative rhetoric targeting ethnic and racial minorities. Actually, what he did was he used explicit, negative, politically correct, or anti-politically correct rhetoric, which is different than racism. Did this rhetoric lead to white Americans expressing more prejudiced views of African Americans or Hispanics, whether through the normalization of prejudice or other mechanisms? The study found that the racist rhetoric from the president has not resulted in more racist attitudes among Americans. We find that via most measures, white Americans expressed anti-black and anti-Hispanic prejudice declined after the 2016 campaign and election. We can rule out even small increases in the expression of prejudice. Wow. That was interesting. That raised my eyebrows when executive producer Phil Brown found that for me. It's amazing. Mexico has sharply reduced migration across its territory toward the U.S. Foreign Minister Marcelo Ebrard announced that Mexico has reduced northward migration by 36.2%. He created the National Guard and a tightening of immigration enforcement for the change, all part of a 45-day trial. 45-day trial, too. It's amazing what a missed space would lead you to say. All part of a 45-day trial to prove the United States that measures to stem migration are actually working. Wow. Actually working. Speaking of the budget, GOP leaders with some help from President Donald Trump are scrambling to round up Republican support for a 2-year, $2.7 trillion budget deal as the House moves forward toward a vote on the package tomorrow afternoon. Or actually, it's this afternoon. Top Republicans believe only a fraction of their conference will support the legislation, hammered out during weeks of negotiations between Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin. GOP insiders estimate that as little as one-third of the 197-member GOP conference will back the measure, although the vote tally is still fluid. I want to make something very plain. This is a bad deal. Do I want the U.S. military to have the resources necessary to be the U.S. military? I do. Are we spending too much money on other things? Yes, we are. The political process that forces Americans to choke down huge amounts of domestic spending in order to be able to provide the U.S. military with enough money to do its job is a cynical, false choice and an abuse of the American people. It's ridiculous. I want the government to stop spending our money. I want the government to stop spending our money. In fact, the 2-year budget bill that President Donald Trump is hammering out with Nancy Pelosi has infuriated some of his closest allies in the Republican Party. They oppose the billions in new spending that the deal would authorize. The leaders of both House and Senate have expressed optimism it will pass before lawmakers leave town for the August recess. The House is expected to vote on the bill today. The Senate is expected to take it up before the summer break starts at the end of next week. The budget agreement calls for federal spending levels and lifting the governmental debt ceiling, issues that could have triggered a nasty partisan battle and possibly a government shutdown this fall. The agreement provides a broad outline for $2.7 trillion in spending over the next 2 years. It amounts to $320 billion increases over the current spending limits. Wow. So there's an interesting bit of tennis going on regarding the president and his asylum policy. Yesterday on this broadcast, we reported that a federal judge decided not to block the Trump administration's latest restrictions on asylum requests by migrants fleeing violence in their home countries. Judge Timothy J. Kelly of D.C. upheld the administration's proposed rule, which was challenged July 16th in a lawsuit brought by several migrant advocacy groups. Under the new rule, asylum seekers who pass through another country on their way to the U.S. will be denied entry here unless they were already rejected for asylum in the third country. In this case, in most cases, it would be Mexico. And Judge Timothy J. Kelly upheld the administration's proposed rules. The president, on his way to West Virginia yesterday, touted that as being a very good thing. And then there's this. A federal judge yesterday blocked the Trump administration from enforcing a rule preventing most migrants from claiming political asylum. Remember that we just saw one federal judge say that the law would stand. Judge Timothy J. Kelly, not good enough for the leftist anti-border security crowd. The ruling that essentially reversed Judge Kelly's decision was made by District Judge John Tigar, U.S. District Judge John Tigar, in San Francisco. It temporarily halted the policy and came just hours of another federal judge in Washington ruling the opposite way. Under the policy proposed June 15th, migrants who pass through another country are first ineligible for asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border. A Honduran who passed through Guatemala and Mexico before reaching the U.S. would not be able to seek asylum here in the U.S. Tigar said the policy would expose migrants to violence and abuse and deny their rights under international law. Why is he ruling on international law? Should he not be ruling on American law? He is, after all, an American judge. I'm just saying. House Democrat leaders backed away from a major clash with their centrist wing over immigration, agreeing to winnow down a sweeping bill that would have overhauled Trump's migrant detention policies. Top Democrats are pushing hard for a vote in the most narrow version this week, attempting a balancing act that they are using to quell a moderate rebellion without losing the caucus's left-wing perspective. But a floor vote remains unclear. The talks are ongoing. Democrats are attempting to salvage their efforts to pass a major bill dealing with the migrant crisis before August and the recess there. Yeah, once again, this is absolutely destructive to the United States of America. Why are these people fighting so incredibly hard? Why are these people fighting so incredibly hard to keep that border open? Why is it? We are aware that it serves a political imperative. But just exactly what political imperative is more important than the security of the United States of America? That border is wide open. It's an onslaught. It's an Oklahoma land rush. It is a mess. And it's only getting messier. We need to, without doubt, move forward to a real immigration system in the United States. You know how many people sailed by the Statue of Liberty on their way to Ellis Island? Nearly all of them. In the 20th century, the immigrant population of the United States grew in an amazing way. And all of these people had to have a sponsor in the United States. They all had to demonstrate a skill that would benefit this nation. And every single one of those people all invoke their parents' or their grandparents' sail past Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty. All that is now is a museum piece. But it helped build one of the greatest, strongest countries in the history of the human endeavor. And we don't use it anymore. We need to build a real immigration system. It is my hope we finally get that done. 844-RADIO-US, 844-723-4687, 844-723-4687 will get you through to this broadcast. There is news regarding the Justice Department and who they will not charge. You'll be shocked at what I tell you next.
It is a horrible scenario, but it happens. Dennis writes about his wife. She was diagnosed with leukemia. In fact, she's a 2-time survivor. And in the midst of all that, they ran up over $1 million in medical bills. Thankfully, they're Medi-Share members. And Dennis says they are so thankful for that, how others came together to meet their needs. And that's how so many Medi-Share members feel. This is not health insurance. It's different. You don't have to pay for things you don't believe in. And like Dennis found out, it just works. So if you join Medi-Share, not only do you save a lot of money, the typical family saves about $500 a month, but you know where your money's going each month. You're helping people, and if the time should come, they'll be helping and even praying for you. So yes, it's different, and as more than 400,000 people now know when it comes to healthcare costs, different is beautiful. Find out more. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Are you looking for senior care for your mom or dad but don't know where to start? Hi, I'm Jen London with The Place for Mom. Nobody knows your parent or loved one better than you, and nobody knows senior living better than the experts at A Place for Mom. They've helped thousands of families find the right place for their mom or dad.
I was so glad that I called A Place for Mom. My advisor really listened and was truly my partner in finding senior care for my dad. She went out of her way to get to know him as a person and was always there whenever I had a question.
The senior living advisors at A Place for Mom partner with thousands of families every month, listening and offering local knowledge and advice to help find the best senior living communities across the country. And it's a free service. Here's the number.
Call A Place for Mom at 1-800-370-2715.
There's a place for answers, A Place for Mom. Call today.
Call A Place for Mom at 1-800-370-2715. That's 1-800-370-2715.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS and you cannot afford to make payments to the IRS, you may qualify for the CNC tax program. This is a new program, and if you qualify, you won't make any payments to the IRS while in this program. Once you're accepted into this program, the IRS is forced to stop all harassing collection activities. No threatening phone calls, no wage garnishments, no bank levies, and no more monthly payments to the IRS. Get ready to write this number down. It's the most important number you'll ever need to end your IRS tax nightmare. Call Paramount Tax Relief at 800-547-4804 for a free confidential consultation to find out if you qualify for the CNC tax program. Once you are accepted into the CNC tax program, you won't make any payments to the IRS while in this program. Call Paramount Tax Relief now at 800-547-4804. That's 800-547-4804. Again, 800-547-4804.
You are listening to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Telephone number 844-RADIO-US, 844-723-4687. You're not going to believe this. Politico is reporting something stunning. What a surprise. The Justice Department will not bring criminal charges against Attorney General William Barr and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. This after the Democrat-led House voted last week to hold them in contempt. In a letter to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Deputy Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen said the cabinet officials' defiance of congressional subpoenas seeking information about the 2020 census did not constitute a crime. Accordingly, The department will not bring congressional contempt citations before a grand jury or take any other action to prosecute the Attorney General or the Secretary, said Rosen, citing legal precedents from administrations of both parties. Lawmakers never expected the Justice Department to prosecute its own leader and another cabinet official, but Rosen's letter represented the department's formal response to a House vote that, in effect, referred Barr and Ross for criminal prosecution. The House Oversight and Reform Committee subpoenaed both departments earlier this year as a part of the investigation into the origin of efforts to add a citizenship question to the census. The Justice and Commerce Departments refused to provide the documents requested. President Donald Trump asserted executive privilege to block the release of those materials. The Department of Justice's long-standing position that we will not prosecute an official for contempt of Congress for declining to provide information subject to presidential assertion of executive privilege is what we have done. It remains unclear if the House will go to court to enforce the Oversight Committee's subpoenas. How typical. How typical of Democrats. They did not get their way. They did not get their way, and so what is their first default setting? Take it to court. That is not the way American government works. You are not impaneled or empowered by the Constitution of the United States to take something that is somewhat of a political defeat and take it into court to get it reversed. It's absolutely wrong to do so. It is the very pinnacle of judicial activism. It is awful, and we need to stop it. If you lose a political argument fair and square, keep it out of court. Because that is the absolute antithesis of representative government. That's the truth. If you represent, say, for example, if you represent someone, and then all of a sudden that representation is set aside by a judge, in the case of the federal judiciary, someone who was not elected, that strikes at the very heart of the American system. To do so is anti-American. And yet, when the Democrat Party has any problem with what is exactly happening, when they simply will not take no for an answer, they put things in court and hope for this super legislature to save the day. It may save the day, but let me tell you something. It does not beat a vote in Congress after you have politicked and compromised your way into something that works for the benefit of Americans. That is what has to happen. The Democrat Party needs to stop going to court and needs to return to the court of public opinion and come up with reasoned, brilliant political policy, public policy that benefits the United States of America as opposed to only benefiting the Democrat Party. That simply must occur. You're listening to the Wells Report. My name is John David Wells. Our telephone number again, 844-RADIO-US, 844-723-4687. Join us on the Facebook page, The Wells Report. Go to www.facebook.com, The Wells Report, and you will be able to join this video stream we have of this very same broadcast and thus take part in the chat room that goes along beside it. It's a great question. Great things going today. Great things going today in that chat room. Good debate. Kurt Chase has joined us, Anhoy Guzman, Steve Merriman, Yvonne Field is here. Isaac Tate hanging around. Come and join us. 844-RADIO-US. 844-723-4687. You are listening to the Wells Report on the USA Radio Network.
Here's a great deal on MyPillow. When you go to MyPillow.com, click on the 2-pack special, type in promo code USA, you'll get 2 MyPillow premium pillows for $69.98. Now that's only $34.99 a pillow. You will not get that price anywhere at retail. It's the lowest price ever offered on radio or TV. And like all MyPillow products, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the 2-pack special, use my promo code USA.
With a recession ending, if you've been putting off building your business, now is the time to act. General Steel will meet or beat any price on a pre-engineered steel building of the same size and specifications. Act now, before steel prices go up. So call us today for free information.
Call 800-965-1290. 800-965-1290, 800-965-1290.